13 is a brand founded for the creators, the innovators, and the motivators, for the people who get up every single day and strive to be better and leave a positive mark on this world. 13 is a fantastic clothing company, and the people that are behind it are passionate, creative, and some of the nicest people I have ever met. All of their stuff looks great, it's comfy, all the designs are so super cool. 13 has some of my favorite t-shirts and seriously my favorite pair of sweatpants I have ever worn. 13 has been a longtime sponsor and supporter of the Cory cast, and they wanted to extend their love to you, the listener. So when you check out their website at thur13en.com, fill your cart with some cool hats, hoodies, sweatpants. Just make sure you use the code word CoryCast at checkout and you're going to save yourself a little bit of money. thur13en.com. Make sure you tell them Cory sent you. Today's guest is one of my best friends, Dennis Sugrue. He was one of the first guests that I interviewed back when I started the podcast, but at that time, there was no video element, and I told Dennis that interview was 4 years ago. Can you believe that? And we have video now, so we had to do a new topic. The last episode was all about the history of Taikai and how Dennis got into martial arts and how he got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This episode really shined a light on Dennis's other passion, which is teaching. And when you're a student, you don't really see how much your teachers genuinely care about your success in your future. You just think teachers are just putting up homework just to give homework. But I've always just appreciate hearing Dennis talk about his passion for teaching and helping kids is really inspiring. It was really cool to see him talk about something that he loves so much. If you are listening to this episode on Spotify, do me a favor, hit that follow button, give this podcast a rating. Every little bit helps this podcast grow to a new audience. I love doing this podcast so much because it was so cool to hear how just absolutely genuine and positive and passionate Dennis is about teaching. It is a really inspiring, beautiful thing to hear. So without further ado, here is my brother, Dennis Sugrue. A little bit different. You were episode 16 when I did this. So that's about the beginning of 2021 when I think COVID was still a little weird.
Oh, it was still a lot weird, yeah.
When I listened to the first 10 minutes and then I stopped because I said, I don't want to be influenced by what I asked 4 years ago.
Gotcha.
But right in the beginning, you were talking about how hard it was teaching during COVID. And now we've had many years where we're back to teaching normal.
Yeah.
Does that not feel amazing?
I don't know about many.
What? Yeah, a few, right?
Yeah.
But isn't that wild?
Yeah.
I was listening to that back. I was like, what a weird, like you said earlier, what a weird time capsule.
Nope.
was.
It's true.
Right?
It's true. And, so much of the modern version of our friendship was forged during COVID.
Right. Yeah. Because I always had taken your classes, MMA classes,
Yeah,
but
I felt like you were a homie, but we leveled up.
Yeah, I know. Playing D&D and
Word.
Yeah. How did you even get into teaching? I feel like a bad friend. I don't understand how you got into social studies.
No, don't be a bad friend. You're not a bad friend.
I'm actually glad you're here because now the tables are turned and I am going to ask you to check under your seat. I'm going to have you fill out a DBQ.
Nice. Nice. You love DBQs, man. I love that you love DBQs.
Dude, they're the best. It's the only social studies thing I remember, to be honest.
That's cool.
But how did you get into teaching?
Yeah, so basically, if you don't mind, I don't do short form, so I'll do long form. I didn't really know what I wanted to do coming out of high school. I knew I wanted to go to college. I had not been a very focused or serious high school student. I did like school, but wasn't a school guy. But anyhow, so my original goal and dream, I liked writing, and I fancied myself a writer. I wanted to go into journalism. That was like
journalism, really?
and thank God I didn't. It's a dead art form. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know? But yeah, that was. So I was going to go to Brockport
For journalism.
Yep.
I would not have thought about that.
Yeah. That's and anyhow, long and short of it, some financial things fell through, and money became a real issue. So I took a gap semester, and most people I feel like that I know that have taken gap years, gap semesters, whatever, don't go back.
Oh, gap meaning like you take a break.
Yeah,
Right.
well, it was like everything was kind of happening last minute, and it was all new to. I'm the first person in my family to graduate college.
Whoa, that's wild. Yeah.
So
I mean, back then,
my
it just seemed
parents were
like.
my parents were all on board, but we were figuring it out together without the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
To like get through all the steps and everything. Well, anyhow, so by the time I was ready to go back to school, I was going to go to OCC, and the journalism dream was dead already. And I had been teaching martial arts at the time, Sheldon Kempo Karate.
Kempo with all the forms,
Yeah, bro.
right? Okay.
So anyhow, I decided that I wanted to go into law enforcement. I was all in. I was going to be...
Really? You're going to be a police officer?
Yeah,
From
dude.
journalism to
Absolutely.
police officer?
Absolutely. You're
Wow.
young. You're like, what am I good at? What do I like?
Yeah.
You know, and I really did like the idea of what I thought law enforcement was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not crapping on law enforcement
Right.
in the least, but like I had this superhero
Yeah.
version of it in my head, you know? And
I remember wanting to be a police officer after my uncle became one. And my uncle...
I heard in your Nick Newcomb episode
Yeah.
about your uncle.
Exactly.
Gotta do some jujitsu, uncle.
Yeah, exactly. Uncle Mario. I'd love for him
Mario,
to do.
come on, get after
I
it.
remember him being like, "You sure?" Like, he's like, I think he was on patrol for at least like 3-4 years at that point. And he's like, "You see like a lot of dark stuff. Are you sure that's what you want to do?"
Solid
and
advice.
and I remember being like, "Oh my god, I never thought of having to see terrible dark images."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, that job ain't for me, homie."
Well, I was all in though, you know, and
Yeah.
I was working with a lot of guys in law enforcement through martial arts. I was coaching, right? Did 2 years of criminal justice. So many good things. First of all, OCC is an amazing
Isn't it
institution.
great?
It's so good, dude.
It's so affordable over
Yeah.
like compared to other colleges.
And I've taken classes at Syracuse University, Oswego, obviously SUNY Albany, where I went. I'm trying to think if there's another school in the Albany area where I went to classes. Either way, OCC just as good, if not better. So anyhow, so I went to OCC for law enforcement, and that's where I was exposed to sociology, which I'm teaching now, psychology, like all these cool things, you know, criminology and just cool stuff. I was all in. Did 2 years, well, year and a half. I was on track to graduate, and I did an internship with Syracuse City PD. And my first night, I could figure out the date just because it was the first night of the playoffs and for the New York Knicks. Like they were in the playoffs, and like they had a really good team back then, Starks and all those guys. So, and I'll tell you why that matters. So I'm waiting. I'm all excited for my police officer to pick me up, and we're gonna do a ride along. Right?
Yeah,
I'm
right.
fired up, and I'm nervous, and I got questions, and I'm all just excited. And I'm waiting outside the station, and cops are coming out. They're coming out, and nobody's talking to me. I'm like just a lonely little kid. Like, oh,
With your lunch bell.
Yeah, pretty much. Got my thermos, you know.
Yeah.
So everybody's gone, and I'm just standing there by myself. I was like, oh, I must have screwed up, right? Like I did something wrong. I wait and I wait. This dude comes out. Oh, and he's hot. He's so mad. And he's like, "You with me?" I was like, "I think so, sir." You know, and he's like, "Come on, let's go."
How old were you? You were still like what?
20.
Okay, 20. Yeah, so you were young.
Yeah. I might even been 19, about to be 20.
Wow.
It was over the side. Either way. So I get in the car, and he's like, "Are we cursing?"
Yeah, for sure.
He's like, "You want to do this fucking job?" I was like, "Oh my God." He's like, "You know what happens? you have kids. You want to have kids, right? You have kids, and then your kids get sick. And guess what? When your fucking kids get sick, you get sick. And when you get sick, you miss work. And guess what? They don't like when you miss work. You miss it. And I'm like, dude, like, I just want to.
This guy's trauma dumping on you.
Right.
A teenage, a 19-year-old.
He clearly just got his ass chewed.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yep.
And so that was my introduction. So I wait for him to kind of cool down, and then I'm like, so, like, you watch basketball? He's like, I don't do sports. I was like, oh, well, the Knicks are in the playoffs. I think that's kind of cool. And I just kept trying to be like, oh, so you got kids? And he's like, well, you know, just wanted nothing to do with me. And then, so we stop and we get gas in the car. I'm like, oh, I'm getting gas with the guy. And it's like this, their own little gas station. I'm like, oh, I'm getting all the cops' secrets. This is going to be amazing, right? And then we went into a convenience store and like, oh my God, we're really doing it. We're getting donuts and coffee. This is amazing, you know? And so then we parked under a bridge. Like we parked under a bridge and we just sat there.
Yeah.
We sat there. He kind of leaned back, like basically taking a nap. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what is going on?
Right.
I don't know. And he doesn't want to talk, so I'm just sitting there.
And you
like,
thought, like, superhero, you're like, let's go get some vigilance.
Yeah. So, but long and short of it, that night started to pick up. Then we meet another cop, so the cars are like this, and they're hanging out, talking through the window. They're buds. Now I see him. Now he's like being friendly with this other cop, but he.
But not friendly to you.
This fucking guy, right?
Yeah.
So then we went to a graveyard, and he took a nap.
Really?
He took a nap. And I was like, what does he do when I'm not here?
Yeah.
Then we got a call. So it was a domestic. So it was two gay guys, and they were having a fight, and it was ugly. Like to watch these two men drunk yelling at each other.
Yeah.
And like this guy.
Were they like beating each other, like throwing hands?
I didn't see him throwing hands, but it was ugly.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, this sucks.
Yeah.
Later on in the night, he there was a dog, like a pitty, and they couldn't get a hold of animal control or something like that. I don't remember, but it was a problem. He was irritated that it's not really his thing. He maced a dog. I was like, what are you doing macing a dog? Like,
oh, so this first night out, dude, was a nightmare.
Oh, dude,
That is a thankless job.
So then we get this call, and there's like perps or something. I don't know.
Is that what you call them?
Perps? I don't know.
That's how far you got.
That's TV, man. I don't know. Well, we did a stakeout. We really did. Like we're sitting we're watching this apartment complex. It was up by the bike shop up by Lemoyne. You know.
Oh yeah.
Somewhere over there. And he's like, oh, there he is. That's the guy. And they're all talking. You know, they're on the, and they, group of guys get in a car and they drive off and the lights go on. And dude, we were in a high speed chase. It was like multiple car chase. I thought it would be awesome. Like my sphincter was like, I'm like, this is. I thought I was tough. I'm like,
yeah, you're like, no, thank you. Yeah,
no. And we went over a median, and the tires popped on the car. And he's like, stay in the fucking car. I'm like, no problem, dude.
No problem.
And you know, I just see him. It was like Scooby Doo. It was like, guys are coming this way, guys are going that way. People are scurrying. They got a hold of one of them, and they pulverize this guy.
Dude, and that's your first night.
Yeah.
That was one night, Dennis.
That was my only night. That's my only night.
Only night. That was your only night.
Now this guy might have deserved it. He might have had a weapon. I'm honestly not throwing shade.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But from my vantage point, it's just like, you know, and in, you know, Rodney King at the time was like fresh on my mind. You know, anyhow. And so I was like, oh my God. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And so I talked to the guy before they sent another car to come get me. And I was like, do you like your job, man? He's like, no, I fucking hate my job. He goes, you deal with the worst people every day. And nobody cares.
Yep.
It broke my heart, man. I felt bad. I felt bad. I did resent that guy for not but had that guy fired me up, like I'd be in law enforcement today. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah.
But I'm thrilled with the path my life has taken. And I get to still kind of be law enforcement adjacent with Tai Kai and some of the people there. And, you know, the things that I've helped participate in. And
Dude, that's wild that was your first night. Just chaos popped off.
I literally quit.
Yeah.
And, I called and I was like, it was basically a class.
Yeah.
It was a no credit class, or there's no grade, just pass fail. And I was like, nah, I'm doing something else, man. I'm not going to waste my summer with this internship.
So then when that fell through, is that how you kind of landed with teaching?
So I decided what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I was kind of lost. And I was like, well, I got to go back to school. I got to keep going to school. I got to go to 4-year school, which was the plan anyhow. I wanted to, I was thinking like maybe FBI, maybe like state trooper. I knew a 4-year degree was the way to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
wait, were you thinking trooper after your experience?
No,
with the police?
going into it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, going in. But I'm just saying, so the plan was always 4 years.
Always 4 years.
I don't want to do criminal justice now.
Yeah.
So I started thinking about, and I was like, you know what? I was really getting good at teaching martial arts. And I was like, you know what? I think I could do this. But I was like, no one's going to be my partner. I don't have like someone with money to fund me and like open a school or like, and there's no, you know what I mean? I was mature enough to realize like, you know what, dude, you can't do this. Like not now at this point in your life. But I was like, but that teaching thing, like I really liked
just the teaching aspect.
Yeah, but it started they started as like I was just spitballing, making lists of like what I could do, what can I be good at, you know?
Right.
And I was like teaching martial arts, and then it just became how about just teaching, man? And so my 2 favorite subjects, like it's not even close, English, social studies, like could have flipped a coin, but instead of flipping a coin, the way I decided, there were 2 things. But the main thing was Mrs. Thautis, Wendy Thautis was my U.S. history teacher, my favorite high school teacher of all time, secondary teacher.
Why?
You know? And like, I think I was a pretty smart kid, but I was wasted talent. It was actually D&D was part of it. When I got back into D&D in 8th grade, I just started ignoring my books. Ignoring my school books. I was all in the DMG, you know?
Yeah, right, exactly.
So that was part of it, and like, whatever. I just, I didn't apply myself. And she just said, she pulled me aside and was like, dude, you're super smart. Like, you write so well. You think, politically already. I was in the Rush Limbaugh at the time. Do you know who that is?
Yes.
So it was like the early days of talk radio, and it made me feel smart because I loved politics, but there was like no place to go to, like, you get the news.
Oh, because there wasn't
no internet.
Yeah, right.
There's
Radio.
There's just no. You watch the news, but like it was mostly the nightly news. You get which I don't know. In some ways was better, but
it was like a different voice than that was out there.
And it's funny because I actually had a buddy of mine say to me, he's like, dude, this guy's poison. And I was like, you don't know, he's so smart.
Right.
I read he had 2 books. I read both of his books. Oh my God, I was a ditto head. Oh my God. we all have our crosses there.
Right.
I'm just hoping there'll be, I won't say names, but I'm hoping there'll be generations of young men that'll look back. I'll say one name, and maybe they'll be like, God, I was so an Andrew kid.
So
I'm hoping they're just like, oh, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, it'll be him for sure.
But
these choices, right?
Yeah.
Like English or social studies.
But she made me feel good about myself. She made me feel smart. She made me see something in myself that I didn't. And that.
So you went social studies because you had one of the best experiences of your life in high school with a teacher.
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, and she hooked me up. I didn't know it. She knew my guidance counselor. I found this out. Lori Gadsden, R.I.P., man. She passed away. She was an amazing human being. And she pulled me into her office, and she was just like, so I'm looking at your SAT scores, and I'm looking at your grades. She's like, something's not jiving here. And I just shared with her that, like, I really didn't like high school.
You'd much rather play in the Forgotten Realms than...
I did left that part out.
Yeah.
But I just didn't feel like, I don't want to boo-hoo this. There's no boo-hoo here, but, like, I grew up in Bridgeport, so, like, lower socioeconomic, very isolated part of the district. So, like, I wasn't plugged in. I didn't play a sport. I gave up wrestling. I never should have given up wrestling. That was like an in for me. But like, I don't know. I just didn't have my tribe.
Right.
I had good friends. But like, I didn't have. I wasn't plugged into the school.
Right.
But anyhow, Miss Gadsden was like, well, you gotta got to turn it up. I'm like, I looked at her, I said, when I get out of here and I go to college, like, I'm going to crush it. And she was like, it doesn't really work that way. Like, you got to prepare, you know? And I was like, no, I'm telling you. Like, I'm telling you. And that's what happened. I got straight 4.0s at OCC.
Did you start studying again?
I learned how to study. I had never studied.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like I never did either.
I just like did the bare minimum.
Right.
And I think it's helped me be a good teacher.
Right.
Because I was like, read every page of almost every assignment in college. I did all the extra stuff. Like I was sat up front, was like hyper nerd guy. But in high school, I was like the exact opposite, you know? So I think when as a teacher now, I think I can reach, you know, my nerdiest AP kid,
right,
who's wound and like got a 92 and they're ready to hyperventilate.
Yeah.
And I can deal with the kid that's got his head down on the desk and just doesn't want to be there.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Everything in between.
You probably see both extremes on a daily basis.
Oh my God, yes.
How many classes are you teaching?
You teach 5. I mean, that's
5?
Like, yep. But it's kind of like, but sociology is a half-year course. So I actually have 4 sections of that this year. So I have 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring.
And you're teaching sociology. What else?
Yep, and AP U.S. History and Regents. I haven't taught Regents history, U.S. history, in 7 years.
Really?
And yeah, I ended up back with it this year. Just the way the
now,
classes felt.
If you had it your way, what would be like the perfect ideal classes you'd like to teach?
Like, I keep thinking I know what the answer to that is, and then I'll get like a new schedule and I'll be miserable about it. Like, I can't believe my schedule's changed. Can't believe it's this, that.
I can't believe I have to do Regents again.
Pretty
right?
much.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, now you're fired
Freaking
up.
love it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What is it? Is it because now it's just a new challenge and you have to like rewrite a plan again?
Yeah. What I like about Regents, AP has a certain level, I don't want to call it pressure. It's not rocket science. It's not, no one's going to die if I screw up my job, right? But like, these are kids trying to get into big boy colleges. They got to test the pass.
Right.
There's a lot. They all do their homework.
So there's a certain level of student.
It's more work, more focus, more parent involvement in the good and the bad way. You know what I mean? It's just a lot more. Mm-hmm. Everything's more. You know? With Regents, what I like is I can teach it in my sleep. I can come in and the kids aren't as wound and I have to fire them up in a different way. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's just a different challenge, and I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. And you have such a range in a Regents class, like such a huge, and I love.
Was there a sub to that class? It was like Regents category. Well, like what was it?
There used to be. Now it's just Regents or AP, and there's nothing else. But when you were there was honors.
Yeah, there was
Regents
right.
honors, and there was. Different versions.
So
they
confusing.
Had, like, general. They had we're not supposed to track anymore. That was like tracking stuff, like putting kids in these lanes. You're still tracking. You can say you're not tracking
because there's still an advanced. AP is like the advanced.
You're creating,
yeah, right.
You know, even by just what math kids take, you're creating tracks.
So when you get these new subjects, like say you get like, I don't know, Great Depression or something, like do you have to build out the plan for the whole thing for that whole year, or is there like a rough estimate of where you should be throughout the year?
Yeah,
because that's got to be a hard moving target.
Yeah, you just like you get good at it, you get better at it, right? Like any job. But basically we have a curriculum, like here's all the stuff you got to cover in U.S. history, and then we have, as you know, the Regents exam. So the Regents exam drives a lot of like what you have to focus on, right? Because you got to prepare them for this assessment at the end. So like you got to make sure they know they have these skills, right? Whatever the skills of the DBQ, right?
Yep.
Which really a DBQ is just simulating the stuff that historians do, analyzing documents, sourcing the document, using the documents with your own knowledge to
support the claim, right?
Yeah. So anyhow, so the assessment drives like what you got to focus on, and then how you do the rest of it, or how you do any of it really, is up to you. But like this is what you're responsible, the information you're responsible to pass on to them. And my teaching style has evolved as the kids have evolved and as I've gotten better. And then
how has it needed to evolve over time?
Oh my God. When I started teaching, Cory, I'm so freaking old.
Like I was gonna say, I'm not trying to make you old, but there probably weren't like cell phones as much as they are in nowadays,
there were
right?
no cell phones when I
Right,
started teaching.
right.
None,
That's what I'm not trying to make you feel
none,
old, but
none, like zero. None.
Right.
No, none. I wrote on the chalkboard.
What's a chalkboard?
Exactly.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, but that's
Yeah.
when I first started teaching, I would lecture. It was predominantly lecture, which is, shown to be one of the lowest forms of education. Like just talking at someone is not. But I've always had a way that I do my lectures that I think is engaging, not just storytelling wise, but like embedding questions to draw them in, make them do something with the information,
right.
whatever. But in the old days, it was like I'd go on the board and I learned this note-taking method called the Cornell method, which simply means you take a sheet of paper and you got that red line on your line paper.
Yeah.
You go in a few inches from that and you make a new line, right? And then you make about 3 inches at the bottom too. And so that whole space in your right is where you take your notes. But then let's say I'm teaching the Great Depression and I'm teaching about the New Deal. So they might take the vocabulary word New Deal, put it in that left-hand column.
So you have room to
now
write
when
it.
they go back to study or they scan that left-hand column, they go, oh, New Deal. And there's the information on it. And they can also, I teach them how to put questions, prompts for themselves in that left-hand column too.
Mm-hmm.
So they have this study guide almost. And then at the bottom, you have them either the next class or for homework, summarize their notes or the little, whatever.
Right.
So I would basically create that on the board.
On the chalkboard.
And just write as I talked. And and then we got overhead projectors.
Such limited technology.
Yeah.
The overhead projectors, that was big.
Yep.
The translucent drawn on the dry erase, wet erase or whatever. But I feel like it was PowerPoint that really popped off. When PowerPoint popped off, that was when.
Now here's what I will say. I love the new technology, Google Slides. I'm all in on Google because of the pandemic really accelerated my tech savviness and using different technologies.
Right.
But whatever, being good at Google Slides, Google Forms, Google whatever. But here's the thing, dude. As time has gone on, there's this push for technology in education for technology's sake. And it's
a push for technology.
Okay, let's have the kids using their Chromebooks in class. Well, let me put it this way. So we play D&D online, right? It's not better than in person, but it's better for us because that's the way we have to do it.
Right.
Just like when the world shut down, we had to do school online, right?
Yeah.
But that technology doesn't make the experience better. Now there are cool things you can do, right? You can put cool spell effects on the thing.
Yeah, right.
You have these images that are cool.
Yeah.
But nothing beats sitting in a room like this and playing.
Right.
Education's the same way.
If you have one person in front of a computer, it kind of detaches them from right.
Yeah, and people think they're using technology, so that's good. Well, is social media all that great? Is Snapchat all that great?
Right.
Twitter all that great? You're just because it's technology. Now we do have to teach them how to use the tools of their world.
Yeah.
And how that, but there's such this push of we're using the internet. Well, it's yeah, but I don't know. So
Especially
much as it's changed, it's not necessarily better.
As much as it changed, dude, but it would be so hard because when I went to school, AI didn't exist, and right now it's hard because especially it would be so hard to quantify something written by AI, right? Isn't the technology?
This is a brand new.
That's a big hurdle, dude.
Problem. So I've assigned less writing for homework, and we have to write in class now. So I know that. That you created it,
right? Right.
But
I feel didn't you tell me before you weren't much of a homework kind of guy? I never. As funny as it is, I never had you as a teacher, even though I was at CNS.
Well, here's the thing: when I first started teaching, I didn't give a lot of homework because I knew I didn't like homework, and I didn't feel like it was. I felt like it was busy work a lot of times.
Yeah.
And then I started teaching AP, and to finish the course, there had to be a lot of outside work. And what teaching AP did for me is it showed me what kids were capable of doing like it moved like what kids could do in my mind. And I was
because
like,
they were all kids who were very ambitious in the AP class, right?
But like some of them were scary smart, right? You get some scary smart kids, right?
Yeah.
Smarter than me. But the average kid is like, there's not a huge difference in mental capabilities, barring disabilities and stuff. Like the more and more we learn about brain research, you know, there are people on both ends of the spectrum. You know, it's hard to even quantify intelligence, right? Because, like, for example, I can't play an instrument. I can't fix
Right, but that doesn't make you
car.
stupid, right? There's different types of intelligence.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but I think my strengths get overvalued, right? That I read well, I write well, I speak well. Like, I like literature. Like, I think that those are more like, I'm smart somehow. Whereas some dude that's like a virtuoso on a guitar, you know, but like,
Or somebody who
doesn't
can
have a
take
degree.
apart a car.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right? Like, that's some
absolutely.
crazy stuff.
Electricians, plumbers, you know.
Yeah.
I think, anyhow, so like even quantifying what intelligence is, but every measure they come up with, like pretty much we're all in the same capabilities. It's what we do with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's what we do with it. Even more than like the human body. Like the human body, right, where you can maximize what you've got, but like you're never going to be Ed, right? Like there's just...
Hey, don't tell me that. If I went on steroids, I probably could get to 250.
You could be like his leg.
I weigh as much as Ed's leg. Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's
Yeah.
about right.
Yeah.
That's about right. But like the brain's different. It's not like that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's why you talk about that growth mindset. It's not just inspirational, like growth mindset, try your best and you'll get better. It's not that. It's like actual brain science. You know, think about, I always use the example of tying your shoes. Like I didn't wear laces, but you think about...
You didn't.
It's
wow.
it's time to tie your shoes, right? And they're tied. Just tied. It's magic, dude. That's magic.
Right.
But like, if you try to slow it down and go bunny ear, and like it's actually wonkier. You know, you
hiccup through it.
Yeah.
You do the 2 bunny ears. You don't do loop, swoop, and pull.
I actually do loop, swoop, and pull. Truth be told, I do.
All right, fair enough.
I didn't know that was the verbiage. I'm very excited by that.
It's because I have a 3-year-old.
Yeah,
that's why.
Good, dude. It's so
Yeah.
My point being, but growth mindset is about like, I think I explained it to kids like your brain is like a jungle, and when you're first learning something, you're lost. You're just lost in the jungle, man. And you get your machete and you start chopping. And you start to make a path, and you realize you're lost. Oops. So you back up to your last point where you kind of knew where you were, and when you do that, you mat everything down again, right? Now you start chopping again, and then you get lost, and you come back, and eventually what happens is you get your way all the way to the other side, but you got there slow. But now that path is there. That's a neural pathway. Like your brain, you literally change your brain. Like you're making new pathways.
You remember that path
now
that you cut.
Boom, boom, and it's faster, it's faster, it's faster. The more you do it, that's all learning, man, all of it. And so if you can get a kid, that's why you get so good at the stuff you love, because you're willing to grind.
Right. Is that the hiccup with the kids who are like the kid with the head on the desk? Like that's the kid that's not.
It's all over the place, dude.
It's all because that's got to be. Especially like with all kids, there's so many different learning styles, and I would imagine the kids learn so much differently. So how do you like build a tailored class to hit all the different teaching styles?
Yeah. So
a good mix of media, maybe.
Yeah. For me, it starts with enthusiasm, and everyone's got to do their own thing, right? Like every instructor's got to have their own bag of tricks. You can't be someone you're not. But I'm a pretty enthusiastic dude, so I play on that. I walk in, and it doesn't matter what I'm teaching. I teach it like it's my favorite thing I've ever taught, and that alone, like they can't help. It's contagious, dude. It's contagious. Now that's smoke and mirrors, but that's a thing. Like, and I get that feedback. I do end of the year course surveys, and that is consistently comes up like, you like your job, you're excited to be here, like you make me want to be here.
Yeah.
You know? So like that works. But then the other thing is, you got to try to use their names. You got to try to use everybody's name.
Try to learn everybody's name.
Well,
right.
if you don't know everybody's name, you're a bad teacher.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
You're
with these kids all year.
Learn their freaking
Learn
names.
their names. Come on.
And use them.
Yeah.
Like, some of these kids go the whole day and no adult says, Cory, what's going on?
Right.
You know? And I try to use...
You even made me perk up. I was like, hey, what's up, Mr. Sugrue?
Hey. And I try to know stuff about them. I try to be like, hey, how'd the basketball game go? But I also try to be cognizant. I know I felt like some teachers were jock sniffers, right? And they're all over the athletes or the...
Oh, right.
So, like, I just try to wrap with it. Or, like, I'm a noticer. Like, oh, you got new shoes, man.
Yeah.
I like your kicks, even if I hate them.
Yeah.
Usually I like them, though.
Yeah.
Usually the kids
Right.
are cooler than I am, right?
But it gets something to be a little bit more, like, personal and enthusiasm and, like, is there
Personal
other...
connection.
Personal connection.
People will sometimes do more for you than they will for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you can get them on board, like this dude likes me, they'll do it for you. They don't want to let you down.
Mm-hmm.
That's the wrong reason, but like it gets the same result.
Right.
You know, and like I play music when they come in, and I'm just looking for hooks, like who knows who Led Zeppelin is? Oh,
yeah,
okay,
right.
let's talk about that, right?
Yeah, right.
Like who loves Lizzo like I love Lizzo? Right? Let's talk about that. Oh, who hates Lizzo? Oh, we're gonna throw down now, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever it is. So all those interpersonal connections, and it's got to be maintained. It's got every day. There's interpersonal connections. Every day there's enthusiasm, and the work needs to be meaningful.
Yeah.
If you're gonna ask a kid to do something, it's got to be worth their while, not busy work. So,
How do you differentiate though between the two?
Yeah, you gotta. That's knowing your craft, and you make mistakes sometimes. You're like, oh, that was a waste of our time, or that wasn't very engaging.
Especially if you get like a new subject and it's your first year teaching it. I feel like there's gonna be some hiccups along the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's trial and error, and you just fix it. But it's nothing you can't patch up with. You never want to undercut yourself though. Like a lot of new teachers will be things like, I know this is boring, kids. Oh, don't say that. Don't ever say that. Don't.
Because the second you say that, that's what happens.
Then it is.
Yep.
But the opposite is true.
All right.
Dude, what we're gonna do today, like this is a skill you can. You don't want to lie. You don't want to overstate. You don't want to overplay your hand. But like, if you can be like, look, man, we're gonna have this discussion that's gonna help you understand your world moving forward, politically, socially, economically, whatever it is. Get them fired up.
Right.
And kids don't show enthusiasm. Teenagers don't show enthusiasm the way little people do.
Right.
You can see it.
Yeah, and have you always taught high school? You've never gone to like middle school?
I taught student teaching. I did 8th grade. It's the lowest I've done.
Yeah.
8th grade.
I would imagine the teaching style is going to be drastically different between high school and middle school and elementary school.
Yes. But I didn't do it long enough. I have more experience actually trying to see that divide at Tai Chi. When I teach adults, I teach teenagers. Oh, right. And then I teach 4-year-olds.
Right. How is the difference in delivery between those three groups? Right. It's adults. I feel like more clear, concise, more detailed. Right.
Yeah.
A teenager, maybe a slimmed down version of that.
Yep. Gotta make it. They can do everything the adults can do. You just gotta make it more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of those kids are there because their parents want them there, not because they want to be there.
Right.
So you know what I mean, or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Adults are there because they want to be there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The little guys, you gotta make it fun. And here's the thing. I actually learned from one of our former coaches there. He was very good with the kids, and I had to watch him because I thought I was good. Like, kids liked me. They wanted to hang out, the little, play. Yep. But, like, to get them to do stuff, and I didn't want to be mean.
Yes,
scare them. I didn't want to be too firm, but I needed to be firm. And I would do things like, okay, take your right hand. Like, dude, the 4-year-old doesn't know his left from his right half the time.
Yep.
So just getting them the one true thing that's more true for young people, but it's true all the way up. Whoever's doing the talking, or when they're supposed to be, and whoever's doing the thing is doing the learning.
Right.
So.
Right.
You cannot have the 4-year-old like you've seen me sometimes. I get carried away. I can't do a 15-minute demo
Right.
of a move.
Right.
The sooner that 4-year-old is moving,
The better.
the better.
Yeah.
And it's not that much different as you go up. I'd like to think that I'm good at finding a way to get you to understand a concept, whether it's jiu-jitsu or history or whatever it is, But I gotta have you doing it then. I gotta
Right.
get you.
Gotta get you
gotta be
moving.
the one drilling it.
Right.
You know.
Now, what is all the same between those age groups?
Well, what I just said, like who's doing the thing is doing the learning. The interpersonal connection is still everything. Everything.
Even when no matter what age group.
Everything.
Right.
Like, dude, I feel like this isn't a brag or a humble brag. I'm blessed. This is me being thankful. It's gonna sound maybe arrogant. I'm sorry, but there are days that I walk into Tai Chi and I feel like a rock star, and it's because, like, my high school kids will go, "Sup, Screw, sup." Like, and that's pretty cool. All right,
that's pretty cool. Yeah, right.
Sup, right.
Yeah.
But like I walk in, Coach Dennis.
Right.
They're so fired up. Like I'm like peeling kids off my legs with hugs and high fives, and it's
makes you feel like a rock star.
Yes.
Yeah, those little kids are funny.
In the best way. But adults give you a different version of that. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. They show up different ways.
Yeah, but they show up. So that interpersonal connection. What I found with adults, it's hard to maintain the interpersonal thing. It's so important, but like what happens is you cross barriers with some people where they become your friends, like your actual friend. And so that's kind of one thing.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is like I'm trying to help you grow. So like I come and I connect with you and like we have a connection and I can feel it, but then like I got 40 other students here.
Right.
And then like
trying to divide your time evenly can be tough.
And you don't want to play favorites.
Right.
And you gotta try to shine the light on everybody. And so I try to give people that need kicks in the asses. The people that need hugs to give them hugs.
Yeah.
But what I found
you won't really find out who needs that though until you start to get to know them a little bit.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Like people just start oversharing with it.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
yeah.
I got you, man.
Dude, I get it as a real estate agent because people, like, when I meet somebody, it's in their home, they feel very safe. So people will often overshare with me, which is fine. That's cool with me. But it's always funny. People are just quick to, especially in my job, just because I'm in your home when I'm meeting you, you know? Right.
But you're using all the same skills that I'm using, both as a coach and this job is all relationship based.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just, and it's also being it's just being good, like a decent person, like just things like texting people when it's your birthday or like.
That's harder than you think, bro.
Frank called me the other day and just was like, "Hey, I was just thinking about you. Like, who does that? I love that guy. He's amazing." That's the cool thing about this job is it just helps me. You're talking about like when people cross that barrier of being like student and then Tai Chi, then friend, like it's this weird. Yeah. It's funny is because for the first time ever, I have somebody who is specifically real estate clients and are now students of mine at Tai Chi.
That's cool.
Where it's always been the reverse. It's always been like I've worked with you at Tai Chi and then I showed you houses. Never been reverse, and it's just funny because they saw me as prim and proper, Cory, real estate agent,
and
then
hear you playing gangster rap.
Exactly. So, but it's funny when they make that paradigm shift. You know what I mean? It's changes the dynamic of the friendship. It's just funny.
Yeah. Well, dude, Spooches was my student.
I know.
My best homies.
Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah.
It's weird stuff.
Yeah.
It's weird stuff.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about becoming a principal?
Never.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
With all due respect, just like with law enforcement, right?
It's a thankless job.
Not only that.
You know what you're like? You're like how John Stewart wants everybody to run for president. I bet you everybody at CNS would want you to be a principal.
I don't know about that. I don't. Here's what I will tell you. I'd be miserable.
Really?
I want to be in the classroom.
Yeah.
That's where I'm happy. It's a different job. It's just a different my connection to law enforcement is it's thankless in this regard. A good principal to me is like a referee in a game. If you're not talking about them all that much, it's good. They just keep the thing
the game going.
Keep it going. And their job is to get obstacles out of my way. Let me do my thing and rein in the people that got to be reined in, right? I don't want to be having talks with adults who should know better about doing their job.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I would love.
So that's where a principal steps in. They kind of like is like the mediator.
Yeah, I mean, they run everything, right? They're the principal of the building, anyhow.
Yeah. When people
everything.
That title, I've always been like, I don't know what you do, but you're probably very busy all day.
I give those people. I think being a building principal is harder than any other administrative job.
Really?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe superintendent, maybe is tougher.
I would,
Like ours,
I feel like if you're a superintendent, you're just catching the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Right, and you probably have to make all the hard decisions.
But you also get to put people on stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Do that, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but if you mess up very big and very publicly as a superintendent.
Right.
But like, man, a lot of those DO positions, and I'm sorry, DO people, you're wonderful, but like, they're just not. They're removed from the classroom. You know, they have secretaries to like do stuff for them.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
right.
Like, and I'm not suggesting that their job's important and it's easy, but like, building principal is rough. Like,
Right.
There's especially at the high school at CNS.
That's a lot of kids and right.
So I do give them a lot of credit.
So you're just going to be your social studies teacher until you retire.
Yep. I do wish that I could get that principal salary, but that's all right.
Yeah, right.
That's all right.
Would you ever switch from social studies to English?
No.
That would be a big shift.
But I tell you, man, I would love that. I do. I love literature and talking about literature and writing about literature.
Just switching to English seems like a pretty big move.
Here's what I'm going to do, though. So this opportunity has opened up. You've met Betsy.
Yeah.
Betsy, maybe she's going to stay in the educational world, but she might be making a shift to something else. Nothing's official. Nothing's happened yet. Maybe it won't happen, but it looks like it's going to. And if things go her way, she'll still be in the building, but she'll be doing something new. She'll be in a new role. Well, she's been teaching SUPA, the Syracuse University sociology course, which she actually asked me if I would teach a decade or whatever ago when she was a department chair. I couldn't go to the training, so she went to the training, and so she's been doing it. I've been doing regular sociology. Well, now, if she moves on, that SUPA sociology is open, so I'm going to do that.
That's cool.
So what will likely happen next year? Remember, I was talking about my schedule all the time. For the first time in, 15, 20 years, almost 20 years, I won't be teaching AP U.S. history.
Wow.
I'll be teaching likely, 2 SUPAs, 3 regular, so I'll be all sociology.
Dang.
Now, part of me is hoping that I get one section of Regents. I couldn't do AP, and I'm taking on a new college level course.
What is it about Regents? What do you like about Regents so much?
Well, part of it is I want to teach
subject.
I want to teach U.S. history.
Yeah,
I like it. And what AP kids don't need me. Do you know what I mean? Like those kids.
So intelligent. They're so smart.
They have a work ethic. Whatever. I feel like my skills are better used on Regents kids. I feel like I can make a bigger difference.
Yeah.
You know? But I don't know. At the end of the day, all the jobs I wanted to do have always involved, I didn't want to go and work for some big company and make somebody else money.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do something for the community, law enforcement, journalism, exposing, telling stories that the public needed to hear. Or now teaching, proud of that. I like that. I don't know why I just shared that, but even at Tai Chi, continuing to, I made my hobby my job to an extent, but teaching jujitsu. But like, I think there's such value in that, you know.
And teaching,
not just lining Ken's pockets with money. I think I'm doing something good.
Right.
I think we're collectively doing something very good there.
All through teaching.
Yeah.
Teaching is kind of cool because it's like, it's the same reason like I like this job so much is it allows me the opportunity to kind of fill my cup in someone else's. So when I teach, it makes me feel like I get to help them out and I feel good about what I did for the day. Yeah. And it's also kind of cool when I get to see them throw their jab cross a little bit better, you know, just because I was like, sit and do a little bit, turn your foot over. And that watching them like just go from point A to B is kind of nice. With students, you get to see it though in a longer progression. It's for like a year. Some guys I feel like I see for like a month and they drop out and I never see them again.
Other guys at Tai though?
Yeah, they've been here for years, right? It's and those that kind of growth is really cool.
Well, how about watching guys pass you?
Yeah.
Anthony Johnson, Mike Musatelli.
Right.
Just, you know, passing me.
Right.
You know?
But you're like you're mid-30s, so you're like in your prime right now.
Yeah. No, I'm broken, dude. I was so broken. That's all right. I know what made me think of the people thing and the community thing. So, another reason I don't want to leave the classroom, in my desk drawer, I have what used to be just one letter. This girl, I'll just use her first name, Stephanie, wrote me an email that I printed out. It's in my desk, and it just says, "Read me." And it's just in there, and I read it in the beginning of every school year, and I read it whenever I have a bad day. And it basically was her telling me this story. She is now a history teacher.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. And she was in my AP US history class, and she was struggling with her confidence, and she also was having some pretty traumatic life things. And she credited me in my class and like just being a good human being to her for getting her through that. And I didn't even like know. Like,
oh, right.
You know what I mean? You're just doing my thing, right?
Right.
And so that letter you don't often hear that, right? Like I'm very lucky that I got feedback. But like I have to remember
how many other kids did you not know that, right?
Right. I actually just got another one. I have 3 letters now. That's the main one, but I got a new one this year. Same thing. Kid.
It's just like your past teacher, dude.
Yeah.
They became a social studies teacher.
Yes.
It's coming full circle, Dennis.
It is though, bro.
Holy cow.
But she was like, this last one was really heavy. Like really heavy. She had stuff she cried a lot in class, but I was interpreting it as nerves and stress, which it was, but not what it really was. But anyhow, so...
And again, you didn't even know with these. Like, you were just doing your thing, going through your normal, enthusiastic lesson plan for the day.
And making connections.
Right.
My other one's from Frank.
Really?
Frank's my 3rd letter.
Really? I got a voicemail saved from Frank.
Yep.
I'm not deleting that thing. And he probably is going to listen to this, but I'm not deleting the voicemail.
Yeah, I don't know if I hope he knows. I try to tell him what a role model he is.
Yeah, Frank, and I feel like, did you have another role model growing up, like even before Frank? I feel like we talked role models. Was it mostly through martial arts, right?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest influence of it's cheesy, but it's true. My parents, you know,
right.
And my dad was this amazing role model that did it like a ninja, like when you're a little kid, you're like, oh, my dad, right? Yeah. But then you become a teenager, you maybe don't always think that, and I'm in awe of my parents now as I have teenagers, and I'm like, they made this look easy, man.
Dude, yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I was thinking the same thing, too. I'm like, here's a crazy thing. Like, I remember being young, and my dad bought, like, a beat-up car that the heat, like, hardly worked. So whenever we drove anywhere, I always had blankets because the heat took forever to kick on.
Yeah.
And, like, now I'm driving in a car that is a freaking heated seats.
Right.
And I'm like, And I'm like taking this as a moment, like, yeah, not trying to like brag, but it's like, it's crazy that like my parents struggled so much and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
Because your scope is so much smaller. I was literally just thinking about that the other day, where I'm like sitting there driving and I got any song I want in the world on my cell phone.
Yep.
And Ashton's like chilling in the back and I got a heated seats and I'm like, I don't remember having 4 blankets in Dad's red Buick. I think it was a Buick.
We had a Buick too. Red Buick. I crashed it, kind of.
Those things were massive. They were a tank.
Tanks.
My first car was a Chevy Lumina, and it was called a tank because it was green, and Luminas were like a long ass boat. It was a long ass boat.
My first car was a Chevy too.
Really? What was
It
it?
was a Camaro though. It was a Z20.
Your first car was a Camaro?
Yeah.
What?
I saved up for that bad boy, man.
You paid for it yourself?
Yeah, but it was used, but yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Were you still in high school when you had your license?
I got my license my senior year. And yeah.
Oh my God, you were such a chick magnet.
No, I wasn't. Oh my God. No, I wasn't. I had a steady girlfriend, but no one would ever describe me as a chick.
You bought a Camaro.
Yeah, dude.
For your first car.
Yeah, it was so funny.
Why a Camaro?
Literally, I destroyed my mom's car that she let me drive. I trashed it. So it was time to get a new car, and I'd saved a bunch of money. And I was driving by, and it was on the side of the road. And it was black with gold racing stripes and, oh my God, ground effects. It was so cool. And I told my dad about it, and I was like, I really want to buy it. And I thought he was going to. My dad's so practical. He's so practical. He's so just good. He doesn't make emotional purchases, decisions, like just clarity. And I was
Not
shocked.
me, fam.
And he was like, let's go look at it. I was like, really? And he got in, he was like, and I'm like, oh, that's it. I'm not getting this car. You know, because he's like revving the engine.
Yeah.
I think my dad was having flashbacks. His car, what did he have? Oh, I'm sorry, Dad. He had a sweet sports car that he had to get rid of when I was on the way. I think that was in his head. And he was like, he did say the things. He's like, a lot of gas. This is a V8. A lot of gas. He's like, this is too much car for you.
Yeah.
You're a young new driver. It's gonna be fast. He's like, you're gonna get tickets. You're gonna get pulled over. You're
all the
driving
time.
This thing. And he's like, and can you afford not just the gas? The insurance is gonna be more. And he's like, but the big thing is the upkeep.
And also, son, can you afford all the hot ass you're gonna get with this car?
And it was stick shift. I'd never driven stick.
What you bought? I would never.
Dude, I wanted that car.
Really?
And actually, you know who taught me how to drive stick was my high school girlfriend's mom.
Really?
She taught me how to drive stick.
Wow.
Yeah, in my Camaro.
In your Camaro.
Yeah. But I ended up trashing it because I couldn't afford to keep up on the tires. And
The tires, dude.
And dude, winter. And my dad told me, he's like, this is rear-wheel drive. You're driving up to OCC. And he was right. I got caught on that hill like, you know, like it just. Right,
yeah.
But you know what? I did it.
Dude, you're driving a Camaro on your first. Wow, that's crazy. You ever think about getting a new Camaro?
No.
Never?
Nope.
Not even a little like.
Nope. There's so many more things I'd rather spend my money on.
Really?
Like nothing. Cars don't excite me. Like seeing other people's cars, I'm like, I can appreciate that's a cool car.
I'm not a car guy.
I have zero desire. I want something reliable. I don't want to spend a lot of money.
Yeah, that's why I like my Honda.
My Anaconda don't want none.
Unless you got buns on. So we did an updated podcast version of the episode number 16. You know what episode this is going to be?
No.
116.
Dude, really?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's fucked up. Who does that?
It's going to be like
that?
episode like 113. I'm sorry.
Well, you better wait to release it now, so it'll be 116. So, listen, I have a proposal for you.
What's the proposal?
I think when you hit whatever your next milestone is, whatever you think your next milestone is for your podcast, what I haven't seen, and maybe I missed it because I did miss one of the ones you did with Spooches. I think we got to flip the script. I think Cory needs to be interviewed for the Cory cast. That's what I think. I think like Spooches and I need a roundtable
Oh,
where like
shit.
you're the guest.
Right.
That's what I think.
Okay.
Just putting it out there.
I don't think have we done just an actual podcast with the three of us?
No, we've not.
It's usually been for Dungeon Donations.
Yeah.
Never just a podcast with the three.
So something like it just.
Wow. That's right. Wow. Well, that's going to happen.
All right.
Say no more, fam. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate you.
You're my homie.
Appreciate you, dude.